Welcome to the show, Soccer Podcast USA. Me with my co-host, well, I'm Christina Unkel, but my co-host, Lori Lindsey, and joining us today will be a special guest. I have a feeling I know who might be. But shout out to you all listening to the Soccer Podcast USA. And you know what? Just shout out kudos to Lori Lindsey, who, is still going on with the podcast to bring you guys her takes, her insights as she's deep in the middle of the Women's Euros going on Fox. Stay tuned.
Wait, what's been going on? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just finished end of year financials for the club, which was eye opening.
No one expected that answer. You're like, I'm great. I just ended end of the year financials. Like literally, it's never come out of anybody else's mouth before. And they're just like, what?
No, I think I just use that.
If I want to be in Switzerland or LA, I mean, both are like fantastic options in terms of time frame. And you're like, I just finished my financials.
My right eye is still twitching since the final game. I have not gotten that right eye twitch to go away. So
you must be tired.
Yeah. I think it's just at the end of the day creating protocols. Like I think we'll always create new things for it, but like we literally did everything you possibly could do this year, including like last minute reschedulings and boat parades and all of that stuff. So it's like closing out 24, 25 and it's just a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and I always have to kind of like regain composure when people are like, right, you just got voices and you're just like, like you're working so hard for people to have opinions or lack of understanding or just gripes. And whether it's internal or external, you're like, oh, you're like, okay, breathe, go get a cup of coffee. But okay, there's a debate in the office.
Okay.
You probably can, you brought it up like, so I will work when everyone's sleeping because that's when I get to get my work done. So I will shoot out emails at that time. And it makes people anxious. And that's not just in this life. This was in the legal life. This was in every single life. I don't want to time my emails out. Do you think I have to time my emails out to make people less anxious? Even though I always say you don't have to respond to my email on a weekend. What is your thoughts?
That's a really great question. I've never been in like that like type of like a front office like that. My first instinct is no. However, my thought process is, and I put myself in this, is like we do live in a world of where like everyone's checking their email all the time. People have to like, even on the receiving end, I'm constantly like, how do I be on my phone less? How do I be more present? Even though I'm guilty of like checking and wanting to respond to emails just because in a way I've gotten into the habit of like, it also makes me feel better because then I feel it's not just a productive thing. It's also almost like then I can relax, but then you're also just constantly doing emails, right? So because then if it's like a matter of like getting those finished, then it's like another one's going to pop in. But no, I just think it comes down to, or what I think my preference would be is just stating a culture of like, okay, you do not need to reply to this. Obviously there is like a timely manner and we want to get things done. And at certain parts of the season, things are more heightened than others, right? If you're coming up to a championship and you're just like, hey, we're playing in the championship next weekend. I'm not going to respond to your email to the following week or whatever. Like maybe that's not going to work, right?
I have checked emails, which is like, please respond by this date. I'm like, that happened a week ago. My bad.
But I think it's more about like a little bit shift in like our culture, which takes like, and does to me come one from like shifting that within organizations and being like, no, we actually do really, if there's any such thing as like work-life balance, we do really value that. So please don't respond. Yeah. I don't know.
But that's an interesting part because I say that all the time. I'm like, don't worry about it. This is just when I'm working. Like if it's mission critical, I'll let you know. And then there's just like, it still gets at people's brains because they see it, to your point. So I'm like, wait, is that me or is that you for checking it?
For sure. It's probably both. But I would also say then there is something maybe to timing those emails so that like you're setting the culture of like, it's not coming to their inbox at all hours, right? I don't know. So even though you're working and that's the preference that you like, set the time so it goes in at like whenever you want them to see it. I don't know. And then the ones that aren't timed are the ones that you do need them to reply to immediately. But I don't even know if I know how to time an email. So I'm kind of like...
I don't either. That's probably why I fight against it because I don't want to learn a new skill.
I'm like, can somebody show me how to do that? So.
I think I'll just chat GPT later. But I think, Lori, you have found the ultimate compromise. I will let it get out. Look at her all glammed up and ready to go. Hey,
Listen, okay, hold on. Jacqui would be a good one to ask this question to, first of all. And then also talk about somebody that is really valuing at times being on LA time versus 9 hours ahead where her family is in England. Because
Jackie.
once we hit after those games, she has like 5 hours of like no one's bothering her in the UK because so she's like, now's the time I've got to do prep for the games. Here we go.
That's
So
amazing. Built in time.
ask the same question to Christina. I mean, to Jacqui. What time are we on?
It's well, actually, you should be awake because it is 10 o'clock, your normal functioning hours. But Jacqui Oatley, welcome to the show. A huge presence and voice now here in the United States, which we're blessed to have your voice here covering what I feel like it's like everything now. Definitely NWSL, but what else are you covering in the United States for us?
Well, the small matter of the European Championship at the moment. Although
small matter. I love it.
Stuck with that one on the other side of the screen every day. I had the degree other day. Oh my goodness, having to talk about ball with her. I'm getting over it.
I love it.
So we're an old married couple. Okay, well, first of all, let me set this. Jacqui and I are an old married couple. I absolutely adore Jacqui and love the work she does, and she makes me a better co-coms as well. Just the amount of prep that she does, but just her knowledge of the game. So she is on the other side of the hotel to me right now, and she woke up super early to be on this show. So thank you so much, Jack.
Just for you, mate. Just for you. Anything for you.
Yeah,
Same.
definitely. Well, thanks, Jenny. So, yeah. Ask that question about the email or which time zone do you want to be on?
Time zone, and ask both. I'm curious.
All right, Jacqui. So this show is called the Soccer Podcast, you say. I think Lori and I always don't talk as much about soccer, so we might have to rename the show, but that's another story. So the question, or the burning question, is twofold. One, where would you rather be working from? So here we're talking about Lori, right? She's on the East Coast. Would she rather be behind on a time zone, or would she rather be in Zurich time? Not the location. We all know we want to be on site, but would she rather be working in the future or working in the past? You travel quite a bit. You come to the United States. You're from England. Do you prefer working in the past, in the future, or in the future?
Oh, wow. That's a big question for first thing in the morning while my brain hasn't started yet. I think I prefer being on a time zone nearer my kids, to be completely honest, because being 8 hours from London time, 9 hours from Swiss time, but yeah, 8 hours from them. So when I wake up, they're getting home from school or not home yet. And I'm like, hurry up, get home. So I can't speak to them in the morning. So I can't say nice things to them in the morning, although they haven't replied to my message last night. It's really mean. So I don't really mind otherwise. Apart from that, I don't really care. I'm quite getting on new time zones. I'm quite strict. I have a new system since going to the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, when I looked up how to beat jet lag, and I nailed it because of that research. And since then, I've just been, you just have to do what you've got to do, and that's all that matters.
Got it. I'm definitely going to look into that because I know I was jet lagged through the entire men's Euros in Germany last year. I was in Berlin for like 30-some days. I never got over it. So, okay. So that was the first question, which was brilliantly answered. But the second question is, we have a debate. So you probably are similar to us. We're working in all different times and hours and at different periods, right? So, but do you send your emails via timed email so people don't get anxious when they see it at like 3 a.m? Or do you believe that you can send it at any time and it's up to the other person to manage their checking of the email so you don't make them anxious? So I work more in a corporate structure. So that's always a debate here.
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you know, I haven't timed emails because sometimes I think, well, if I do, then what if something's happened in the world since then and they get a jokey email from me and something really bad's happened, then that wouldn't land very well. So I haven't actually done that, although that would be a good idea. But no, I try not to send an email that might land at a time when somebody's, say, with their kids or their family, because a lot of people can't help but check in case they miss something bad. So if you're saying something that might unsettle them, or I need to get back to them on that, or I didn't do that for them, or I need to do this, I don't want to unsettle them in their own time because that's unfair. So I think we all need to be a lot more conscious of that.
Words of wisdom.
Proper British answer.
This is essentially what we
polite.
got to in terms of like changing society and like, sending emails and like even though Christina, you don't want people to respond, it is just like, depends on how important do we feel like it is. But I like that answer, Jack.
But if it's
I do too. All
important,
right, I'll snip it and I'll send it to the club
Hold on,
here,
what's
and
Jacqui saying?
they're gonna win.
if it's not that important, I would just put it at the top. Just sending this while I think about it. But when you're next at your desk, would you mind looking at blah blah? So they know that I'm not expecting an answer anytime soon. But I don't want people to have to engage mentally when they're accidentally checking on a Sunday when they're doing something in their downtime, because we need to be a bit more considerate, right? Not everybody works 7 days like us.
I like it.
I think it's my problem. I'm surrounded by people like you. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Jack, let's talk about your journey, because it is quite unique.
Yeah.
I've heard it a number of times, but in like such a lovely way, because, and I only say that joking, tongue in cheek a little bit, because we're together quite a bit. But it is quite unique. And also, you know how much I love you. So I think for a lot of our listeners, it'd be, wonderful just to hear kind of like how you got onto this path, because it wasn't just like the straight shot in terms of like going to school for broadcast and then here you are, right? So there's been a lot of twists and turns, and whatever you would like to share about your family and anything. Free for all here.
Yeah, no, I try not to give you the long version because the long version is quite long. I'll try and give you the very short version. But no, when I was growing up, there was no football basically for girls. Girls couldn't play football in England in that time. There just wasn't an opportunity. I wasn't allowed to play at school. There were no local clubs. I became football mad overnight after seeing a game on TV, having already loved sport as a whole. But I had no introduction, my dad, brother, nothing. Didn't know anybody into football at all. No family, or my family was in South Africa. So no, nothing like that. And then went to university at the age of 17, made a beeline for the women's football desk, signed up there, played, drank. That's what we do at our college football. It's a bit different to yours, with pints. Loved it so much.
It's adult amateur soccer in the United States. That's what that is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And had a great time, but there was no suggestion of getting into football, working in football afterwards. I was a football nut as much as I am now, just as I was there. Nothing's changed since I was, however, very young. And long story short, did a German degree in management, went traveling around the world for a year, having lived in Germany for a year as well, and thought I'd know what I wanted to do and didn't. Ended up falling into working in intellectual property, protecting brands on the internet, missing major football tournaments, like not being able to watch matches during the day when not just England, but any team was watching. And I just thought, this is against my basic human rights. I need to be able to watch football matches whenever I want to. And so I just thought, I was having quite a tough time. I was playing football on a Sunday and watching my team all over England on a Saturday. And when I injured my knee badly playing football for my team in the Greater London League, my kneecap dislocated, ruptured all the ligaments, had a really bad time with that, a major reconstruction, plus lots of other operations as well. It was just a horrible thing to do, and I lost all the cartilage. And that was a catalyst, really, because I hated my job, and I had to change jobs initially while I was waiting for the operation. Very boring, but stayed in intellectual property. And I just thought, this isn't for me. There's something out there that's more interesting, but how do I get into football? And that's when I just researched, read people's biographies online and thought, what did they do? Well, they did hospital radio. Read more. What did they do? Well, they did journalism. Okay. So I went and bought a magazine in a local shop in a newsagent's and saw Introduction to Print Journalism. So I did that evening course for 6 months. I did other evening courses in production and journalism for 6 months. And I thought, right, I want to get out of this job and get into sports journalism, but everyone wants to get into sports journalism and they're all better qualified than me. So how do I do that? So I decided to give up the job that I had and give up my accommodation, living with my friends in a London flat share, which was great fun. And basically slept on friends' floors for a summer, did full-time work experience anywhere that would have me for a day, any sports news agency or BBC station or anywhere I could get for a day or whatever, or a week. And decided to go back to university because I wanted to train properly. I wanted to learn the absolute basics of how to ask questions, how to record interviews. And it was news journalism, broadcast journalism that I studied, TV and radio. Wasn't interested in TV, only wanted to do radio. TV was such a faff. And that's what I studied. As soon as I got there, wrote to all the local BBC stations saying, I'm a mature student. I was in my late 20s. Can I come in and see you? Stupidly, BBC Leeds let me come in for 2 days on their TV news side. And that was it. Stupidly. It was a very terrible decision of theirs. But once I was in the door, once you're in front of people, it's different, isn't it? You can talk to them, you can ask them questions. Can I come in? Can I see you? Can I shadow? So getting in front of people was the key, and just worked my way up from non-league football in local radio in Yorkshire, and loved every second.
Wow. That's cool. That's really, really cool. That is. So when you did intellectual property, was it as an attorney, or were you just scouring the web, and ensuring compliance, or I love how you have this incredible story, and I go back to the intellectual property.
Yeah. So initially,
I was doing financial.
It was definitely not legal. I'm not that clever. It was a German degree. You don't just go straight. So do you remember those little dongles you used to stick in the back of big computers? Do you remember dongles that had information on them? No. Christina's like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm in 87.
A little bit younger
No, I was born in 87. I'm not that young.
Right.
No, I'm going to go Google that. Keep going.
This big dongle thing that you put in the back of a machine. So I had to go around intellectual property attorneys' offices in the centre of London, networking them. I had no computer background at all. And networking them and training them on how to search trademarks initially. And it was about... Actually, it was trademark searching software. And then I moved to another company after my knee injury. And that was more about protecting brands on the internet and domain name portfolios. Like Deutsche Bank could be deutschebank.nl for the Netherlands.co.uk. Okay, it's really boring. But you can see why.
No, but I think for me is you were in that industry and then you come into football, which was your passion. It was your human rights. I think that's what your statement was. So is there anything you pulled from that industry into the current industry? Because I think that's what makes people unique. I think that's what probably makes you even more unique is how you look at a game and how you analyze it and how you break it down. And Lori's always said, and I've seen it. I think it was the NWSL final November. You guys were in pre-game discussions yourselves, not required by a producer. I think that was a solid 2 hours because I was talking to Andrew Yock from Minnesota Aura, and I'm like, damn, they're still going at it. And it's not like you guys were just chatting. You guys were deep into analysis. So I'm like for me anyways, I pulled that together because I'm just wondering if all of that helped you prep to be who you are today and how you made your success and created your own luck, basically.
Well, I think the first thing comes from a passion, an obsession. For me, it's football is just, and sport in general first, and then football. So, and then going to football matches as a fan from the age of 15 was when I first had people to go with, because none of my family wanted. So I would go and watch and travel home and away. And it was the football itself. It wasn't the environment. It wasn't just the fan situation. It was the actual game that I've always been interested in, the actual game. And then when I played, I loved the actual game, the tactics side of it as well. I loved all that. And then having watched matches back to back, I would spend Sundays watching 13 hours of football before I changed career. And no, after I changed career, because that's when there was that much on. But I love the analysis side of it as well. But I think in terms of the broadcasting, I think it's really communication, because I love people. I love talking to people. And I think journalism, all these little nuggets combined mean that I love what I do, because I love people. I love journalism, and journalism really is finding things out from other people or other things that you've researched and sharing that information with people. So I take the journalism, whether it's news and you're asking questions, or whether it's sports news, you're holding people in authority to account, which I think is really important, which is why I think journalism is so important. It shouldn't just be ex-players doing interviews, for example. There's a place for that, but I think when you've got to interview somebody who's perhaps not performing, there are ways of doing that perhaps journalism training can help with. And I think with commentary, the research I do is not just statistical. She's had 15 assists this season. Well, okay, that's interesting. She's good then. But for me, it's about people. It's about what they've done in their lives that's brought them to this point. And I think the commentary I'm doing for this tournament and for all major tournaments, especially in the women's game, is about their background and how it's made them who they are. And there are so many interesting nuggets about the backgrounds of players that most of it doesn't get used. 99% of it doesn't get used because it's not relevant at that time. But I do think being interested in the people, being interested in the background, as well as the tactics, all combines to be something that I just really enjoy. And in terms of the tactics, Lori and I message each other all the time. I need to stop messaging you about videos and clips and things, but
No, I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
amazing. I do find the whole thing so interesting, the tactics side as
Yeah,
well as the
Christina,
people.
I'll just go off of that too. I think this is why Jacqui and I really work well together. One, we care about one another, but also we really care about what we're doing. So it is different prep than maybe, and it's not a comparison, but maybe different than a lot of other people do, because I really care about the tactics. Jacqui and I can have long conversations, to your point about the NWSL championship. We both really care about that, the evolution. And that's what's been so fun about working on, not even just like a whole season to see teams come through it, like in the NWSL, but in these more acute types of tournaments where you're seeing teams live up to the pressure or not. Why are they? Why aren't they not? The backgrounds. And I think we are starting to see, to Jacqui's point as well, really unique. Well, we've always had really unique stories with some of these female footballers, but also just the larger gap of really who's investing into the federation and who's not. Why is this the case? So there's a lot of storylines and just stories to be told about that as well. And I think it's coming to like a really heightened place of because of the visibility, because of the investment in some federations and some and not. So, right. So whether that's detrimental to the players and providing the resources or whatnot. So yeah, it's been really fun tournament so far. I guess my question after saying that, Jack, would be, even though it's early in the morning for you, and see if your brain's firing, but is there a couple teams, 2 or 3 teams that are really been standing out, maybe the ones that we've covered or not, so far in this tournament?
Yeah, I think France. I think
Yeah.
you and I were less surprised by that game, I think, than a lot of people were, because, and I did say to you, didn't I? I said I'm worried about England, especially when I saw the team sheet. But never mind England. I thought France were fantastic. I think in every way, technically, tactically, mentally, all the question marks about them has always been, yeah, they're a bunch of talented players, but when they all get together in camp, they all blow up and they can't put it together. And I asked Delphine Cascarino about that when I spoke to her recently. We were very fortunate to be hooked up by NWSL and Fox, who really helped us with our background prep of talking to these players individually. It's been amazing. And she said, you know, when I said, what's been going wrong for the year, she's went, oh, if we knew that. And she said, well, mentality, really. And I think that's clear. They just put it all together in that performance. So I think they absolutely could go all the way. I think Spain, it's so easy to talk about Spain because they have so many different pieces they can put together, and then they bring Bonmati off the bench. I mean, you know, be fair. But I think coming into the tournament, Pina was a player that I picked out as being player of the tournament potential. I just think she's phenomenal, and she's not necessarily a guaranteed starter either, or hasn't been in recent times. So those two, I think something made me laugh a lot. I saw a headline back in the UK I'll say it was the BBC. I was quite shocked by this, that had Germany as dark horses. I'm like, dark horses? What, 8-time winners, Germany, dark horses who won World Cups? And I was like, how can you have Germany as a dark horse? They have.
It worked, Jacqui. You clicked on the link. They got you on that clickbait.
Yes. I was like, who? Yeah, fair point. So I would always have Germany in there just because they're German. And as an English person who has been to so many women's tournaments and seen the Germans go, that, and celebrate, and the gold glitter and ticker tape everywhere. There's just so many tournaments I saw them do that in succession. So massive shame for them about Julia Gavin, their captain. But I think, you know, Eula Brandt and Clara Buhl and Lea Schuller, and they have so many others. Shame about Lena Oberdorf still not being fit after a year out with an ACL. But yeah, but I think at the moment between France and Spain are the most impressive. And if there's a way we could get them to be in the final, that would be fun.
That would be incredible. I agree with you all. France wasn't a surprise to me, right? You're looking at their, their wingers and the speed that they have, and it's just incredible. I think it's because all I'm doing is watching film tape, scouting players. So like that speed is just insane that they have. But if you guys had to pick a dark horse that's not Germany, who would be your dark horse of the tournament?
Well, you know who we've been loving, and I'm going to speak for Jacqui, is Switzerland. We have been just loving
Yes, I was going to
Switzerland.
say the same thing, not because I have an undisclosed player that we have not yet announced who plays for that team, but
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, congrats for that because I'll say this, we have their game against Finland on Thursday, which means a lot for their group. I think it actually decides on who's going to go as a second place team in that group. But from the opening game that we had with them versus Norway, we thought they were going to be very defensive. Just in the games leading up, they had played this 5-back system. Pia Sundhage, who a lot of American fans would know from her time with the US Women's National Team. She was my coach when I was with the national team. And she has been much more of like a pragmatic coach, defensive principles, right? And so it wasn't a surprise. And then they came out and they were not playing in the 5-back. They played actually with wing backs, pushing them high. They have a lot of young talent. That's exciting. And that's why we were a bit confused. We were like, okay, this formation doesn't suit their personnel. And then to her credit, came out firing on all cylinders, really, I think, shocked Norway won. And Norway had to come back. And I don't think Norway's been at their best by any means at this tournament. And they've found their way through and have qualified for the next round. But still, regardless, there is something about the Swiss team that I think is galvanizing their country right now. And it's fun to watch. So I'm very excited for them. But I also, because I just mentioned Finland, I'll put Finland because we were able to talk with Natalia Kuika as well, one of the NWSL players who plays for Chicago Stars prior to this tournament. And she was like, watch this space, watch our team. A lot of people will doubt us, but we are a very different team than the Euros in 2022. And we still have our defensive principles, but we are going to attack. We have a lot more belief. We have players consistently playing at a higher level now. And then they have some very individual quality that you need in this tournament to be able to help you win close margin games and just go on to the next round and at least try to advance as far as you can. So that game in particular is going to be amazing, but those would be two teams that I'm kind of like, this is interesting. I don't know, Jack, do you have anybody else that comes to mind? We've literally covered so many teams.
Yeah, so I think there's a difference between dark horse to win the tournament and dark horse to show something that we weren't doing. They're two different things. So Lori, I'm with you all the way on those, and especially Finland being bottom ranked of that group. Iceland, tiny little wee nation, have always been the underdog. They're actually the highest ranked side in that group, above Norway as well. So, but we did enjoy Kosola, didn't we, of Finland? And I love an underdog. Being from Wolverhampton, now living in London, but being from Wolverhampton, I love an underdog. And yeah, the other team that I picked out before the tournament was Italy. Again, I don't know whether that's underdog status. They've been at every Euros bar one, but not necessarily done much since the 90s. But I do think, even though we saw them yesterday and they were pegged back at the end, I think they've got something that can be quite useful.
Same. Yeah.
To the knockout.
They're actually one before the tournament. I had as well. Yep.
Yeah, they were my dark horse before it started. And I think we haven't seen as much from Giuliano as yet, but I do think set pieces can be massive in making decisions and deciding games. And I like their back three. I like their goalkeeper, though she wasn't really tested yesterday. And Shirelli, oh my goodness, did you see her emotion after she scored that wonderful goal? That is what this is all about, my friends. That is what these tournaments are about. The journey that she's been on, the trying to get a nation to believe that women can play football. It's frankly exhausting, Christina. It's so boring for so many of us in Europe to have had this battle over all these years. But when you see these players in their mid-30s who've gone through all that and score a goal like that on this stage, and the emotion that comes from wearing that shirt and from scoring for that shirt. So I'm getting a bit carried away with Italy now, but I do think they've got what it takes to surprise a few of the big guns down.
Yeah, no, and I love that. I think, I mean, earlier Jacqui used the word like keeping people accountable is like one thing that, kind of drives you on that journalism part. And actually your profile before you started doing work here in the United States popped up because of that. I think respectfully so called, organizations and the investments and that's just the general treatment, not even financial for women's football, which I've always appreciated. And I followed you for that. And kind of you're hitting the head, like Lori and I did the women's Euros for ESPN in 2022. I'm losing track of the time because I knew it was one of those off years.
Yeah, exactly. The last one. Yep.
Jacqui, you hit it on the head. Like, I'm not English, clearly. But like that tournament, like I got really emotional when England won because we were with Emma for that tournament. And I did not realize that over in England, like women were still, or girls were still not allowed to play football in PE. Like it was still banned. And I'm like, if only this country had allowed women back then, like Lori would have, had I mean, they already did. Right? England's a solid team, but like, could you imagine if like even just the belief and the opportunity for access existed 100 years ago, you guys would be crushing. You guys would be Germany. You would be holding the trophy every single time. So, I think thank you for that is kind of my point, is just for always kind of keeping that accountable. And I guess from your perspective, outside of like, yes, we need the financial investments. Yes, the prize money isn't enough. Yes, it's tied to revenue generating from corporate partnerships and ticket sales, right? Because all run hand in hand. But where are opportunities that you could identify that may not be financial, that increases the value of women's football for people to want to play in it for the next generation?
Yeah, well, I think it's twofold. It's from the bottom down and it's from the top down and bottom up as well. I think you have to have places for girls to play and you have to create an environment whereby they want to play. And then further up the chain, when they get to a certain level, there has to be that support for them to be able to improve their game and be the very best they can be. That is the thing that my generation had zero opportunity to do. I had to kick a football against my garage door and practice keepy uppies on my own. Not even my brother wanted to play. Nobody wanted to play.
I love keepy uppies. I'd play that any day with you too.
I love that. So good. I love keepy. It's just a simple joy in life. Get kids off screens, get them to learn keepy uppies. Come on. And but there was nowhere to play is my point. So it's really sad that, okay, I was no loss to football, but my generation, think of the talent that was lost. Okay, in England initially, but look across the world, look at the lost generations, look at the talent that's still being lost. What about in Africa, the raw talent that is there that doesn't have the opportunity to shine? Oh my God, the potential of women's football. This is why I keep banging on about potential of women's football. And I get really cross about these male execs. It's not all men, by the way. There are some very high profile female execs in England, I could point out, who want nothing to do with women's football. So it's not all men, but who just look at the now. They look at spreadsheets and they look at making money for now. They're not thinking about the opportunities if they were to invest in the women's game as to the revenue streams that could potentially open up to them, if that's how you want to talk about it, and how they can diversify their club in terms of the fan base and in terms of having another women team. Look, Chelsea have got another winning women's team. Okay, they can stop winning the WSL now. We get the picture. They won it 6 in a row. They can let someone else have a go, right? But they've invested. Arsenal over the years, they are a proper one club mentality. There are not many of those around. Arsenal are a one club. They genuinely mean it, whereby women can be the best they can be. But just slightly down from the top echelons, there are players who are not receiving the right medical care, even when they're at that level. And the championship clubs, there are people having ACL injuries just below the WSL and having to crowdfund for treatment so they can have an operation and not wait for a year for the NHS, effectively the government to pay for it. There is so much that still needs to be done to allow women to be the best that they can be. And until you're allowing girls and women to be the best they can be and fulfill their potential, how can you tell them that they're second rate? How can you not give them the funding that they deserve? How can you tell them they're not as good as men when you're not giving them the opportunity to be anywhere near as good as men? And when I've been doing research now for 20 years, since Euro 2005, I've been doing research into these female footballers' backgrounds. Most of them have only become footballers because they had a brother who they played with because their brother went to training and they were on the sidelines. There are so many stories of that, where the girl only actually kicked a ball because the brother was taken to training. The brother was given a football. There are very few. There's the odd one that was an only child. I think Katie Zellum might be one, but then her uncle played professionally, and dad. So we have a long way to go. But instead of being negative about it, I think about it as potential. If you're giving these girls a football when they're little instead of a Barbie doll, and you're making them feel that they belong, like you tend to do more in America than we do in the UK. The Lionesses have done a lot to help on that front. It has changed mindsets. It has blown away and literally put a hand grenade on some of those stereotypes about women. And unfortunately, we might not be backing it up this tournament, but in terms of the opportunities to play and changing the mindset, it has shifted a great deal.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, I always kind of laugh. One of the things I want to do, we have a corporate partner. It's a huge medical hospital. Is I want to put onesies on every baby, boy and girls, with Tampa Bay Sun, which is my bro team, on it, because usually people like their babies. So I figured that'd give. But I think you changed my mind. If I can't get that through the corporate partnership, is just give a little ball, a little soccer ball, to every little girl. Just innately give them a little soccer ball and go kick it around and go play keepy uppies. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a mindset though. You just don't have that issue here. You know, you put the NWSL on, and I've noticed that the last couple of years. I go back to the UK and say to people about the NWSL, I said, no one's talking about men's football when I'm going over to commentate on the NWSL. No one's talking about the men. It's just about the women. In England, we're constantly comparing to the men, holding out a begging ball. Can we have some more money from the men? And by the way, a little story about this game that we're doing tomorrow. I was researching last night, and 20 years ago, just ahead of England hosting Euro 2005, when Man United cancelled their senior women's team, by the way, so that was a negative. But the groups had been announced for qualification for Women's 2005 in England. And the Welsh FA looked at the group and decided, yeah, we don't really want to pay for these women to go on these flights to qualify. So we're going to pull them out of qualification and they're not going to be allowed to compete. We're going to give the money to the men's team. Mark Hughes was in charge. That is an actual example of what women have had to put up with in the last 20 years. They were in a group. If you look at the qualifying group, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Israel, Wales are at the bottom on 0 points. Wales withdrew because the Welsh men at the FA said, we need to give that money, more money to men's football. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think, and Jacqui, I know you'll pull that out tomorrow in the commentary for it, but, you know, I was surprised too. I think I had seen some kind of a headliner and I clicked in to learn the history, right? We all know Fishlock. I mean, Fishlock is one of the, I think, top 10 players I've ever officiated, right? Who's never been able to make it on the world scene because of Wales' investment in it. But yeah, learn about that because it's within our lifetime. It's not right. It's within our time frame. Like, I think some of our players who just retired. We have Jade Moore. You'd know Jade Moore from England, and right, Erica Timrack here domestically from the United States. And like literally our retirement party or farewell thing is like all I could do was thank them for playing football when it was not popular, when they were not being paid, and then when they were not being treated like professional athletes. Because them suffering and persevering through it created an environment that we look at our rookies and we're like, you came from beautiful D1 institutions and NCAA, and now you're rolling into professional football, and you know no other. This is it. This is all they've known, and it's kind of an incredible thing. But it's also surreal when you have two players like that in your locker room, and you look left and right, and you're like, wow, that's insane. So, no, thanks for telling that story. And so, okay, what are you guys covering? I know this comes out on Thursday, but what are you guys covering tomorrow? Get your guys' schedule, your commentary schedule out.
No, we have it memorized, basically. It's France-Wales tomorrow. Yep. Thursday is Finland, Switzerland. Spain, Italy on Friday. Day off, in quotes, on Saturday. And then England, Wales on Sunday. And that's the final game for group stage. And then knockouts start for quarterfinals, semis, and then the final on the 27th.
Crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys can catch. And I mean, Jacqui, thank you for your time. I mean, I know it's early there. I know you got prep. I have no idea how you look so glamorous this early in the morning, but you always do.
She looks glamorous every time I meet. I'm in like sweats calling these games, and Jacqui comes out in like this flowy blouse and stuff. I'm like, what? You look amazing. I need to like clean up my act.
I know some people like that around you. You're like, I was coming in sweats here, and I'm like, technically, I'm a president of a club. I probably should not be walking around in sweats.
I'm in sweats. Look, I'm gonna go for a walk now, Lord. You'll be proud of me. I'm gonna leave the building and go for a power walk. I don't get out enough. My husband says this. Lori says this. Ari's hammering me here for not leaving my room. So I'm gonna leave. I've got my big screen all set up behind here. But it's so enticing. I've got my chair here, my armchair, and I've got this massive screen, and I've got an HDMI cable into my computer, and I'm watching all these games and tactics and playing stuff, and it's just so exciting. But I am gonna go for a walk because I'm in LA and it's beautiful here, and I need some sunshine.
Go get your sunshine.
I'm very happy for you.
Very happy. And I love how that sweats. That looks like a nice, like proper, like sweatshirt. And yeah, that is not sweats, Jacqui. We'll get you a Nike t-shirt. Let's go.
I've got a gym kit on. I might actually.
Okay.
Well, it's like the fancy gym clothes she's got on.
Yeah.
Love you, Jack. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy your walk.
Yep.
Bye.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Well, Lori, like that's like Jacqui's story is so fascinating because it's like a voice that I knew over in England, then comes over here to the United States and comes out of nowhere, to be quite honest, and then starts commentating on some of her biggest games. But the respect and the detail, I think that was one of my biggest things, the attention to detail that she brings out when she does her commentary. Because I know English, commentating for English football is a bit different than commentating for American football, right? So I think the way she's adapted has been really, really, really good. It changes a little bit of the American, but not as much. I don't know. It's a different style than what I would have been expecting from someone coming from England into the United States.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously she knows her story the best, but it's exactly what she said in terms of how she approaches it. I've seen it firsthand for a number of years now, just with the journalism background and the way that she tells stories. And obviously every commentator has their own style, as does a co-coms or an analyst. So, but she really does approach it with, she said, like a love and obsession, really. And I think what's really interesting about Jacqui too is that she does love the game and she watches it. So that's why her and I can have those conversations in terms of tactics, because she's picking out trends as well, and we're going back and forth on what we think. But it comes from a place of like she truly cares, both the men's and women's game. And she knows the game, so it makes it that much easier. But she's also telling the stories of the individuals that really draw the viewer in a way that is very unique, very unique style, which is wonderful.
Yeah, well, now I'm curious on your guys' take on the men's national team, right? Fox is covering Gold Cup as well, U.S. men's national team pattern trajectories. Like, what's your guys' chatter on that? I mean, I think that was the result. I think it was a win for the U.S. men's national team. Shut Up Steve is clearly working. They haven't been giving you the proper attributions for that.
They must have heard. Yeah, they must have heard us. No, I'm thrilled for them. I mean, obviously disappointing loss, but those are the types. And I think we heard Stu, and then even like Moadu and people that were guys in the studio talk about this. Those are the types of games that this young group for the men need to play in, because it is a group that is still learning, much more inexperienced team than we would probably expect next year at this time heading into the World Cup. But at the same time, that's what you want if you're one of those guys. You want to make a statement for yourself individually to put yourself on that roster, but then collectively, I think Pochettino learns a lot about himself and how to manage a team throughout the tournament. And then also these guys, just 78,000 that they're playing in front of, fans that they're playing in front of against a huge rival in Mexico, and just the type of environment that you want to grow. And unfortunate loss in the end, but I think all around the way they were able to regroup after the friendlies that were disappointing prior to the tournament and then build into this tournament. And hats off to them, because I think Fox just put out the ratings and it was like 3.3 million in terms of viewers and stuff, which is incredible. So that's what you want a year out from the World Cup, your men's World Cup that you're excited about. And those were the talking points for the Gold Cup, is like, okay, like we need to galvanize this country and get people excited as the home country. So feels like they did that, and still a lot of work to do in this next year, but much better starting point than I think everybody felt we were at the beginning of the tournament.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be going back to the just brilliant case study analysis of how you introduce, right, your key signature players back into the player mix when you just had your, for lack of a better term, your second tier, your B team coming in and kind of proving themselves and fighting for the crest and fighting for wanting to be there, whether the other person did or didn't. It's a completely different, conversation standpoint, but how do you get that chemistry and still at the end of the day allow everyone to compete in camp alone, right? Not based off of history or past, which is still important, but like that's going to be, I think, the interesting take when we go into the fall window of how he's going to integrate the team that's like, we carry this team when others weren't here, versus the other players coming back into market and saying, we're here, you can't ignore us, which you can. So I don't know. I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by all of that stuff. And I mean, obviously we have the comparison with the U.S. women's national team, and just, God, Emma's running on cylinders, right? Like, I think that was a great stat that our producer pulled out, right? 24 new players, right? Coming into the camp here. And that's just incredible. A little bit of a contrast, but I think I would be surprised if Emma and Pochettino are talking all the time about the culture and integrating it, and how she's doing it and how he can start doing it too as well. So I think it's between Shut Up Steve and Emma Hayes. I would not be too far apart saying that this will change the men's national team. So I give it to you, Lori and Emma, like two women changing the world.
Exactly. Shut Up Steve is really taking everybody by storm. So here we go. No, I agree. I mean, our women's national team, this is what it was all about: expanding the player pool, deepening the squad, allowing for more players to get opportunities, and just rolling right now. And that's what you want. And then start to integrate some of the players, keep everybody healthy as much as possible, and get players back from pregnancy and on a roll. Love it.
Yeah. All right. And last question. Although I'm going to do the quick intro, so sorry, producers, but welcome to the Soccer Podcast USA. This is Christina, Lori Lindsey, and Jacqui Oatley joins us. Sorry, Kev, we didn't do any of that, but that's okay because we got to figure out a new name change anyways. But last question. I was shocked, and I was brought into CBS's Call It What You Want with Charlie and Jimmy and Tony. Handball or no handball against Mexico when he fell on the ball, like, blew my mind.
Handball.
I mean, Pochettino commented, no way, where do you get handball from? It's such not a handball.
He put his hand on the ball. It's not a
You're
handball.
correct. He did touch the ball with his hand. That is factually correct. But is a deliberate handling offense.
Yeah.
Think of the context. How is it deliberate?
He put his hand on the ball. I think so.
Yeah, also, he put his hand on the ball. But was it deliberate?
But there's so many. Okay, great question about that. But we see handballs called all the time that aren't deliberate. Literally 2 feet away or a foot away that hit somebody's arm that are not deliberate, and they'll get called and there'll be a penalty. All the time.
Well, it comes down to the deliberate, right? It's non-intent. It's the different considerations that come through. But when we talk about like a deliberate handling offense, right? Here you have the player coming in for a challenge, right? He connects to it. He actually himself kicks the ball basically where his hand's going down onto it. He's already bracing himself for the fall at the point of contact. So it wasn't like the ball was there. It was almost simultaneously. He kicks it. He hits it. There's no secondary movement. Everyone's like, oh, his hand rolled. Yeah, it was on top. It rolled right off, right? He didn't like put his hand and then push it. But what advantage was gained? Like, what advantage was a Mexico player gained from putting his hand on top of the ball when there's no other attackers nearby? Like, control. How is this not natural? Control. Like,
control. He's literally pressure. Okay, here's the better question.
This is like answers from footballers, because I'm like, were you expecting him to keep his hand behind his back when he's falling forward after he commits in that challenge so that his face smashes into the ground? Like, I feel like I'm talking about practical.
Yes, all of those are fair, but how many times do we see, and this goes to my point of like somebody's arms, you're defending and it hits somebody's arm and they call a penalty kick. They're not trying
but are they controlled? And that's where we talk about deliberate, is outside the silhouette, right? Do you have a time and opportunity to move that got implemented back into the application consideration of the distance, right, et cetera? And is it natural? So is it natural for him the Mexican player, to fall and brace himself for that fall?
I think it's natural, yes, but like you're still, I think if he's kicking into his own hand, that's deliberate. Again, no, this is where I'm always confused, because it is a natural position to defend inside your own 18 box and try to like move your body, and you don't always have time to put your hands behind your back. And if it hits your arm, I still see that called. But I guess the bigger question is, if Pochettino was saying in the press conference, and I'd be curious what you think, if that happened at the other end, would it have been called?
No.
Did you see that?
It would not have been called. Yep. The Guatemalan referee, right on point, said absolutely not. I know understand that managers use media to, right? He has to corral a country behind him.
Sure. I'm just curious about you. It's just a fun question.
No, I know. I saw that as well too. And I was like, nah, like it's such and there's a reason why VAR didn't recommend it down. Like, it's just fascinating because the whole referee world's like, no, we're good. And the rest of the football world's like, that's a handling offense. And I'm sitting here like if I was with Terry, right, when we do our CBS show and he goes, football understanding, referees don't have football understanding. This is practical. Like, I felt like I'm like sitting there. I'm like, wait, for the first time I'm arguing football understanding and TT's not here to yell at me.
Right. Listen.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because you're not alone. There's a lot, right?
Next week we have a lot to talk about, I feel like, in refereeing context. So I need to make sure I write them down. We'll do a referee thing. Write it all down. I was just at TalkSport in England, and we were supposed to talk about the women's Euros, and I think we ended up just talking about FIFA Club World Cup referee issues. I was like, wait, you need to retitle this segment. This is not the women's Euros.
Not the women's Euros. I'm glad I've been watching FIFA Club World Cup when I can. But Lori, no, thanks for your time. Thanks for making time. I know that's insane with your schedule. So thank you for that. Middle of a tournament, it's always super busy, especially in the group stages. So thanks for that. Everyone keep watching Lori on some of the biggest games. It's always really cool when I could turn on the TV in the club and just lower it up or raise the volume and know that Lori's in the background. It's a trusted voice. So thanks for all your coverage. Thanks for bringing Jacqui and everyone else. Watch Soccer Podcast USA. Name is going to change. Am I allowed to say that, Kev? So maybe we kind of put out a sweepstakes for people to figure out what the name is, because Lori and I have taken this show completely wherever the hell we wanted to take it. So I need to change. But anyways, thanks everyone for it. Thanks for the day. Watch us on or listen to us on YouTube. YouTube, that's it. YouTube. Talk soon. Don't forget to follow us on the Soccer Podcast USA as we continue to bring you big names and bold opinions. That's it for our show. See you later.